Today we're going to demonstrate a rinseless wash process utilizing this 1963 Lincoln Continental. If you don't know by now, this is my personal car. I've invested a lot of time, my own personal energy, and yes, some money into making this thing a beautiful show car. It has spent the last week out at shows, the Regional Good Guys show, and has driven back and forth a couple times and gotten a couple hundred miles on it. And this is fire season up here, so there's a little bit more on the paint than you may be able to see with your naked eye. This is an excellent paint job. It's an expensive paint job, and I want to be as careful as possible. So if I were at the show, I might wipe it down with a quick detailer, knowing that long-term I'm gonna polish it. But all the employees at Griots Garage followed the same methodology, used a rinseless wash because we're introducing a little bit more water, and for the amount of soiling and things that are actually on the paint, even if they're not visible through the camera, it's a safer way to ensure a potential reduction in wash-induced scratches. Now, on our entire spectrum of washing safety, rinseless wash is a great one that is above detailers, but lower than traditional hose and bucket, pre-rinsing, and high-pressure foaming washes. But this is an old car. It's got a lot of body gaps, and we don't want to put too much water on it. So we're going to wash it safely with a rinseless washing method. Our product, Rinseless Wash and Wax, dilutes at a ½ ounce to 2.5 gallons. So for this 2-gallon bucket, I'm really only going to be using just about over a ½ ounce. And I also have the flexibility of mixing it at a 15:1, and I'll use this for pre-treatment, for parts of the body that are lower, where I can get a little bit more saturation, a little bit more liquid. And I can also use this as a clay lubricant if I find that some of that heavier stuff that's coming from the fires that are local and or seasonal need to be removed using a decontamination process. So I've got 2 gallons of water in here. Just gonna give it a little squirt. I do have a measuring guide on the bottle. And after that, I'm gonna use one of my washing tools to mix it up. Now for washing, using this form, I'm going to follow very standard washing processes. I'm gonna go top to bottom. I'm gonna avoid the most heavily soiled places in particular using this particular method, but I've got the complement of that 15:1 as I'm working my way around the car. I see something that looks dirtier, guess what? I'm gonna soak it and then come back and touch it with this. But I've got our Ultra Plush microfiber edgeless towels. I use that to mix up the solution, and then I've wrung it out. So this towel is wet, but it's not soaking wet, right? I can squeeze it, get a little bit more water out of it, but it's not dripping. That's ideal for a car that's at this soil level. If your car is a little bit dirtier, you might want a little bit wetter of a towel. As I mentioned, we're going to use traditional washing techniques. We're going to start top to bottom. The roof, ideally, even in a car that's this low, is going to be less dirty than your lower edges that are interacting with the road as much as they do. I've got that towel that I wetted out and is not dripping wet, and I'm going to use straight line passes with very gentle, if no pressure, and a lifting motion that allows me to pick up what is on the paint without pushing it into the paint. Now, that is not extremely dirty, but there is some soiling there. Now I can flip this side around, repeat that same linear motion. And I'm trying to be really careful. This is a show car quality paint job. So I'm going to use more towels and more caution than normal, but every one of these straight line passes is very deliberate, very light. And then ultimately, the beauty of a rinseless wash is that we don't have to rinse that off. We've picked everything up in this towel, and then we're gonna come back with a dry towel that is clean and dry up the excess liquid material. Now, I still wanna use caution here, but it's a pretty damn simple process. So, done half the roof. Gonna repeat that process on the other side of the roof. And the most important thing about rinseless washing is what we call towel cycling. Yes, we sell towels, but using too few towels is one of the quickest ways to scratching your paint and creating more damage than you really want to do. So, towels are cheap, paint is expensive. Use more towels, you can wash them in the washing machine after you're done, but it's the easiest way to ensure that as you work your way around the car, you're not taking what's on the roof and putting it onto the hood. So, by folding your towel into quarters, you actually have 8 different sides to work with, and I've got at least 4 clean sides to work with on the other side of this roof. Now, once this towel is potentially saturated, I can drop it back into my wash solution. That should loosen up any of the heavier stuff that the towel has picked up. Now I'm just gonna check the towel before I reintroduce it into the paint, before deciding whether or not I can use it on more surfaces or I've got to switch my towel. Now that the roof is done, I'm gonna work my way down. Most likely trunk, hood, and then sides. And lastly, in a rinseless process, I do glass. Glass tends to be the most forgiving. It's not as sensitive as paint. And if I'm talking about conserving towels and or using as little of them as possible, I can potentially bring a mildly saturated towel onto my glass without a lot of risk of damage, unlike taking that same towel to my pristine black paint. Again, in this drying, I'm going to ensure the same things as with my washing tool. I'm using very light pressure because there's not a lot of liquid to dry up. And is my drying towel getting dirty? Not really. That's the beauty of that rinseless washing solution. But it's why it's so critical that for the actual washing tool, what you're touching your paint with, that you're deliberate and that you use more of them than you probably might assume, just for safety's sake. Now once again, because of my discipline with folding in quarters, I have 8 sides to work with, and I only used 4 of them on the driver's side of the hood. for this enormous black Lincoln Continental, which hopefully your car isn't this big, and hopefully you can get a little bit more durability out of your towels as you're working around the surface of what ideally is a normal sized car. Even as you can see, I'm looking simply at the edge with which I'm touching the paint with, because on one facing of the towel, I'm lifting and pushing so lightly that the soiling is gathering up at one edge, and because of that, I can simply flip the direction of the towel and pull a different edge. So I'm turning what is 8 surfaces and 8 holes or swipes into 16. This is just a matter of practice and being very, very careful. So again, no pressure, very little liquid to dry up, and my towel is still looking the same color that I started with. As I pull out a towel that I've used, I'm checking the surfaces to see if it is getting too heavily soiled. I'm pretty confident on this black paint job that I can reuse this towel. So if you're not catching that gentle flip and acknowledgement that I'm doing on every one of these panels, it's simply a look at your towel to see where the dirt is accumulating. And if it's accumulating on one side of it, and I can simply spin it, and that side is the only side that's going to be touching the towel, I have again segmented that towel into more opportunities to safely wash the car without pushing that dirt back into the painted surface. As I mentioned, towel discipline is key. That towel wasn't very dirty. This is an expensive paint job. I'm gonna go above and beyond and use a new towel for drying so I can use even less pressure and extend it a little further over a larger surface, as I did this entire trunk lid in one go, as opposed to splitting it in two. A true rinseless wash should take a lot less time than a hose and bucket wash. You've got a lot less equipment to get out, and you've got a lot less work to do in every step. Now, it has its limitations. If your car is extremely soiled, you probably want to opt for more water. This car being a show car that came out in the summertime and having heavy dust and or light road grime, I'm just being cautious because I know how much this paint costs. On an OEM car that is in between heavier washes, great. You take it back down from a mountain pass, rinseless washing is not the ideal option. However, this washing process serves water-deprived communities, washing in high heat conditions like we have here in July indoors without making a big mess, and also throughout the winter time when you want to wash your car and it's too cold out to bring out the hose and bucket. Guess what? If you manage your car, don't let it get too dirty, rinseless washing is a consistently great option that is safer than a quick detailer. Now with these smaller panels, I tend to rotate my towels a little bit more and then put them back into the wash solution to loosen up any dirt they picked up and just cycle the towels without having to replace the towels. And this car wasn't heavily soiled. This is an excessively safe and maybe neurotic process, but I don't want to repaint this car. I paid that bill once. As presumed, the flat panels are decidedly more heavily soiled than the side panels, which is nice. And we took a lot of care with them, so the rest of this should go pretty quickly. Now, if you're thinking, what kind of sick human being signs up to clean a black 18-foot slab-sided American car with very intricate hand washing? It's me. But I'm also willing to tell you that it's not that daunting of a task. And this is one of those technologies that once you finally use it and realize how good it is, you're going to be blown away that you've never done it before. The pros know professional detailers are generally the ones that have innovated and utilized rinseless washing the most, and it's probably one of the hardest concepts to grasp for enthusiasts. But it's truly an amazing technology. The chemistry that we can incorporate into this concentrated of a product makes washing very safe, but you gotta be willing to try it. part of this discipline is just looking at your towels, looking at your washing tools. Now I've done all the flat panels on this car and the driver's side only using 2 towels. Now, there's no reason for me to switch, but I'm gonna switch. I got 1 more towel sitting here, why not? Just get a perfectly clean washing tool and go over the next side of the car. And then like I mentioned, we're gonna finish by doing all the glass, and we can do the glass pretty quickly. One of the benefits of this product is that you can use it on painted surfaces, glass, chrome. You can even use it on wheels. Now wheels are a totally different monster, and we'll talk about those last. However, ultimately it comes down to what you are touching the paint with. So if you've got a nice plush towel and you've got plenty of them, don't be shy about using them. Like I mentioned, paint is a lot more expensive than towels. I think I'm gonna be able to get this entire side with this one brand new washing towel and all of the real estate that it has afforded me. Now, with rinseless products, you're not leaving a lot of material on the surface. So the areas that you wash first might be a little wispier or have a little bit less material on them than when you initially touched the surface and left all that water on them. So I generally tend to follow the same progression that I do as I wash. I just dry first what I touched first. And that leaves the most lubrication on the painted surface. Again, making my washing or my drying process that much safer as well. I don't really want to chase this if I've left it on the paint too long and I'm rubbing to try and remove any streaks or prematurely dried materials, which should not be the case with this product. But you leave it on the paint too long, you're gonna have a negative experience. So you can see I'm pretty calm and casual about working this product around my Lincoln, and that should be the case when you clean your car up the same way. So, 18 feet of black, straight, flat Lincoln Continental, clean with rinseless wash and wax. Pretty easy if you use the right tools and take a very safe and practical approach. We can do the glass and we can do the wheels with the same product. Those are way easier than what I just demonstrated in terms of care and caution on a black painted surface. And it's one of our best products for something like this. High-end show car, older car, you can't put too much water on it. It's super hot outside. You don't want to get the hose and bucket out because you're worried about water spotting, or it's too cold outside. You don't want to get the hose and bucket out because you don't want frostbite. Rinseless wash and wax and or rinseless washing methods are excellent for these type of scenarios, and I hope that me showing you what I just did on this Lincoln will give you the confidence to try it on your own car.